All right. Hi there, everybody. Today we are going to start building one of the models that you picked up in your packet from the school. You're going to need the first 4 sheets. The first one's called the Shell 4. The next one is Shell 3, Shell 2, and Shell 1. And then you need a sheet that shows all of the electrons on it. The electron sheet has 24 electrons listed with white letters and black backgrounds around each of them. Each of the sheets you need today are called Electron Shells 00501 Origami Organelles. All right, so that's what the model is going to look like when we're all done. So let's go through this. The electrons, as we talked about last week, are organized into shells, or what we call energy levels, around the atom's nucleus. They occupy the shell nearest the nucleus. As shells are filled with electrons, they start filling the next shell. The first shell holds 2 electrons, the second holds 8 electrons, and the third one holds 8 electrons. The fourth one gets more complex. We're not going to worry too much about that one, but we will have a couple electrons in there for our models today. All right, atoms prefer to have a full shell, just like our noble gases, which are not reactive. So their preference is to be filled up. And we're going to get into that more as we move forward. The formation of the chemical bonds help the atoms to fill those shells so that they aren't left with unfilled shells. They want to fill them up. So you can model the first 20 elements of the periodic table with this model. And you're going to work on some of them today, and then your assignment's going to be to make 7 more. All right, so as you're looking at your finished model, when it's done, I know it's not done yet, the first layer there is what we're going to call shell 1. And that piece of paper that you've got for shell 1, it's going to be a small circle there, like the picture shows here. And then the shell 2 is a little bit bigger, shell 3 is a little bit bigger circle, and then shell 4 is the biggest circle. What you're going to need is tape and scissors, and then those 4 sheets that I mentioned. Scotch tape works the best for this. All right, so we're going to start with this first one here. You're going to cut out along all. Do not cut the dashed lines. The dashed lines are for folding. Do not cut the dashed lines, only the black lines. So this is one of the shells. And then once you cut out the shell completely, you're going to fold it in half, slightly fold it in half. You don't have to crease it all the way, but slightly fold it in half so that you can cut that X that's in the middle. So the example they're showing you here is shell 3 that should be colored green. Yours is white. You'll have to color them in. I recommend using colored pencils to color this. So you cut off those flaps. Once you cut the X, you fold them over, and then you snip them off. You don't need that little part in the middle there. You want to get rid of those little triangle flaps there. So just cut them out completely. All right, then you go and you cut all of the little tabs on the sides. Don't cut them off. They need to hold electrons later on, so keep them attached. And then just fold them up along the dashed line. Now you're going to make the little stem that sits in the middle of the shell. So you cut out that stem along the solid lines. Don't cut the dashed lines. And then cut up along the solid lines, and you're going to make little arms. All right, tape that together. You can crease along each of those lines that were being cut along those, and then tape it together and then fold the arms out like that. And then it is inserted into the center of the shell so that it's on the arms are going out through the bottom. Now you do that for all of them. So this first one here, this is the shell 1, this is shell 2, and then shell 3 was the picture we were just working on, and then this is shell 4. And you can see these stems are getting smaller because they have to fit inside of each other. And then your electrons are pretty straightforward. You cut them out and you tape them together like this. It does not have to be a perfect little circle. If you want to try to make it a perfect little circle, that's fine, but don't take too much time on that. All right, and then you put them all together. Notice that they are lined up. The electron positions are lined up here. You want to try to line these up, the top and the bottom, and then the sides, so that they're all lined up. And you can see how the stems are inserted into each other this way. All right, and this is what it should look like when it's finished. Now what we're going to do is build some atoms using this model. So we're going to start with our first element on the periodic table. You're going to add 1 electron to the smallest shell, take all the other shells out, and you just are using this first shell. This is shell 1, the one that has the lowest energy level. So what element is this? Go ahead, guess. 3, 2, 1. It is hydrogen. Very good. All right, so hydrogen has only 1 electron. It's got 1 proton. Now what you're going to do is you're going to add more electrons as we go forward, and you're going to add the electrons to and identify the atoms. So the next one is if we put 2 electrons in shell number 1, you're going to have helium. Helium's got 2 electrons, 2 protons. Go ahead and add a second electron to your atom that you had with hydrogen, and now you have created helium. Next, what you're going to do is put the next energy level, next shell, underneath this orange one. You need to add shell 2, and we're going to add 1 electron to that one because our next element has 3 electrons, and there's no other place to put electrons on this shell because it's full. So the second shell, now we've added the second shell here, we're going to put 1 electron, and you can see there are lots of open spaces here. So this is lithium. Lithium has 3 electrons, and like I mentioned, the shell 2 is only holding 1 electron. Now notice that all of these electron spaces being open and having only 1 valence electron makes lithium a very reactive element. It's the one that we find on the far left side of the periodic table. All right, we're going to add another electron. Notice we're adding it just to the top and the bottom now. We've got 4 electrons. This is beryllium. The first shell is full still, and then the second shell is where we got 2 electrons. So make your model look like this. This is beryllium. All right, we're going to move on. Boron. Boron is going to have 5 electrons. Again, first shell is full, and then the second shell is starting to fill up. And the way we model this is we add it to the top, the bottom, and then the sides. So guess what's going to come next? Carbon. Yep. Now we got 6 electrons. So go ahead and keep modeling along with me. Keep building this. So the first shell is full. The second shell is starting to fill up. We still have 4 spaces open that the second shell can hold a total of 8 electrons, and there's still some open spaces there. All right, we're jumping way ahead. I'm going to show you the last element that you can create using this model. This is calcium. Calcium has 20 electrons. So the first shell has 2. The second shell has 8. So the first shell and the second shell are both full. And now we've got the third shell is full. I added the third shell onto here. The green one went underneath, and then we add all the electrons on there. And now there's still 2 more needed to reach 20 electrons. So I put the 4th shell underneath there, and then we put the 2 electrons on the sides there, and we now have 20 electrons on here. And this model is showing calcium. All right. Now it's your turn. You need to individually make 7 different atoms with the correct number of electrons. You're going to take photos of your atoms using the model and put the photos of the atoms into this slideshow. The slideshow is in the Canvas classroom, so you can access it there and add your pictures right to the slides. Make sure that you label or you name your atoms. So if you're like up here, what I did was I had boron and I had carbon and I had beryllium. So make sure you label what your atom is. And then it has to match the correct number of electrons that are in the atom. Now, you cannot use any of the atoms that I already showed you for your atoms. So this first slide here is going to be for your first atom. Again, it says right there, you cannot use calcium, hydrogen, helium, carbon, boron, beryllium, or lithium. This is a spot for your second atom, third atom, fourth atom, fifth atom, sixth atom, and seventh atom. Make sure with each of these that you label each one of them. All right, let me know if you have any questions, and have fun modeling.